Mary Lou McDonald.
Ramagat Ceann Comhairle and Taoiseach. Last night we witnessed the mother and sister of Clodagh Ho, Mary and Jacqueline, speak about the brutal murder of Clodagh and her three sons, Liam, aged 13, Niall, aged 11, and Ryan, aged 6, at the hands of her husband and their father in August 2016. I think anybody who saw last night's programme has been deeply affected by their utterly terrifying and heartbreaking story. And the issues that they've raised in respect of the subsequent investigation and the unanswered questions that remain for them almost 3 years on. I want Ceann Comhairle to extend to Clodagh's family and friends and to those of Liam, Niall and Ryan deepest and sincerest sympathies this afternoon. It's very clear from the testimony of Clodagh's family last night, Taoiseach, that they need answers to questions that they have surrounding Clodagh's murder and the murder of her three children, and the state needs answers too. As legislators, there's an onus on us to ensure that there are the necessary statutory provisions in place to understand in full how and why these violent crimes occur. Earlier this month, I wrote to the Garda Commissioner and to the Minister for Justice, asking that consideration be given to the introduction of domestic homicide reviews and that they be underpinned in legislation. Domestic homicide reviews have been in place in Britain since 2011. And they're due to be introduced in the North following a public consultation process. Domestic homicide reviews take a multi-agency approach to determine the circumstances in which such deaths occur, and bodies such as Women's Aid have long advocated for the introduction of these reviews here in Ireland, and that the family and friends of victims should be included in the review process. That should happen, Taoiseach, because the reality is that the Garda management don't have adequate data or understanding of these homicides. If they did, Mary and Jacqueline wouldn't have had to go on television to advance what are very, very modest asks to understand how and why Clodagh and her children were murdered. So can I ask you, Taoiseach, if you support the introduction of domestic homicide reviews, will you give consideration to them and to their introduction in the near future? Because families deserve answers to questions, and reviews of this kind can play a very important part in providing those answers. The family last night called for reviews of the Coroner's Act and laws surrounding exhumations, as well as changes to the Succession Act. So in a sense, they've made their submission, Taoiseach, very publicly. I'm glad that the Minister for Justice is open to such a submission, but the family also want an inquiry. They want answers. So can I ask, will the Minister for Justice meet with the family to agree the scope and form of such an inquiry?
Taoiseach.
I think, as I indicated earlier in my response to Deputy Martin, the Minister for Justice would be very happy to receive a submission from the family with their suggestions as to how we can better deal with family annihilation and family homicide. And obviously we can take it from there and make decisions on foot of full consideration of that submission. And I answered the question already in relation to the Coroner's Act and the Succession Act. It is acknowledged that the Gardaí can learn from awful cases such as this, and indeed other family homicides that have occurred in recent years. And I'm informed that the Gardaí are carrying out a review of cases of domestic homicide to better inform their approach to domestic violence generally, and that review is ongoing. In addition to that, as I mentioned earlier, the Garda National Protective Services Bureau, that's the GNPSB, is now responsible for ensuring that frontline Gardaí have a solid understanding of our new laws around domestic violence. Major changes to policing are taking place within 6 new divisional protective services units, and they're actually went live across 6 Garda divisions in the first week of January. 10 divisional units have now been established across 9 Garda divisions, and DPSUs will go live in the remaining 19 divisions throughout 2019.
Thank you, Taoiseach, and I'm aware of all of that work, and it marks, undoubtedly it marks progress. In fact, I discussed these matters when I met with the Garda Commissioner, Drew Harris, some months ago. But I'm now making a different proposition and a different point to you. And it is that, rather than in an ad hoc or a discretionary way, but that we establish in law multi-agency review processes of these types of homicides. And this allows an avenue for families, for friends, but each of the statutory organisations, not just to share and to reveal information, but to learn. Because I return to my initial point, Ceann Comhairle, Clodagh and her 3 boys are gone. Others have died in this horrific way also, but it's our job as legislators, and it's the duty of statutory agencies, not simply to be horrified, although we are all horrified by this turn of events, but to learn why, to try and grasp why, so that we can take preventative action. The family Taoiseach have asked for an inquiry. They haven't specified what type of inquiry, but can I suggest to you that rather than simply asking or indicating a willingness to receive a submission, I think the Minister should meet with the family in these circumstances and hear from them directly what the questions are and what an inquiry, a short, sharp, informative inquiry would look like to give these families the comfort that I know we all wish them to have.
Taoiseach.
Thanks again, Deputy. I don't think we'd be doing justice to the family or right by the country to make decisions or commitments here on the hoof in the chamber. But as the Minister for Justice has indicated, he would be very happy to receive a submission from the family based on what they said on television last night, but maybe there were other things they want to say too that they weren't able to get across on a television programme. And of course he'd be happy to meet them on foot of that, and we can follow it up from there.
Taoiseach.